Welcome to the Life with Joey Calvo Podcast. I am Joey Calvo. I apologize for the technical difficulties in reference to this happening. Somehow the ad kicked me out of the studio, so that's why I disappeared. But I am back, and please continue to help the victims of the California wildfires and the Texas floods. They do still need our help as they rebuild. So today our guest is Brian Brady. He's a retired cop who was born and raised in the vibrant heart of San Francisco. Probably definitely a 49ers fan like I am. Found endless inspiration in the city, celebrated studying architecture, dynamic sports teams, rich traditions, and colorful characters. His career journey began as a police officer, later transitioning to a corporate security executive. So, Brian, welcome to the podcast.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Okay. So, Brian, explain a little bit more about you. How did, in reference to, why did you become a police officer and, to where you're at now?
Okay. Probably became a police officer because of a neighbor. He was a San Francisco police officer and lived down the street from me. And I had an opportunity to talk with him, and he was pretty influential in my decision. Ultimately, I started my career with Berkeley, and San Francisco at the time, uncorrected vision could be no worse than 20/40, correctable with glasses to 20/20,
right.
And mine was 20/50, so they wouldn't take me. But Berkeley had 20/50, so I went to work there based on his recommendation. And from there, I left. After 9 years, went down to East LA, worked a couple of years in East LA, then to New Mexico for 4 years, then back to the Bay Area to Novato, which is about 30 miles north of San Francisco. And I retired there as the police chief. And then from there, back to Los Angeles, and 10 years with NBC Universal as the head of security. Then back to San Francisco and the head of security for the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art after a year. And then I do some consulting work now with another security firm and try and write books.
Okay. All right. So you did all that. Now, when you're at NBC Universal and you were head security, did you actually go on while you were head of security? Did you get that opportunity to walk in and check on your personnel in any of the studios itself?
Sure. Universal is very unique. It's a huge piece of property, excess of 400 acres in Los Angeles. And it's even more unique because it's split between the city of Los Angeles and the county of Los Angeles. So we have portions of our property in the county and portions in the city. So we worked with LA City PD and LA County Sheriffs to protect the property. And then to make it even more interesting, we have a theme park in the middle of our property. So you have Universal Studios Hollywood at the same time. So you've got a full theme park, and you have an 81 retail sales venue called City Walk, which includes restaurants, bars, stores. So it's a rather unique position because you're dealing with sound stages, TV shows, movies, theme park, retail sales, and then worldwide movie production.
Okay. Well, my actual question in reference to why I asked that question was, did you get to meet any famous people while you were going through that?
Sure. And I will say in all candor, the vast majority, and I mean probably 99.5% of the celebrities, the A-list actors and actresses that you interact with are really nice people. And they're very, very easy to work with. They're very easy to get along with. Sometimes the exception would be their personal assistant. Sometimes the personal assistant could be a little problematic, but the celebrity themselves, they were usually very, very easy to deal with.
Okay. All right. So explain about your book. Give me one moment.
There's actually the book we're probably talking about today is Greed. It's actually the third book. And the books came about, quite frankly, because over the years, and I've been very fortunate. I had a varied career. I've got to work in 2 different states, 4 police departments, and then private sector. So I've met interesting people and collected some interesting stories and anecdotal stories. And I kind of kept a file. So when I was with friends, a discussion would come back, like you mentioned, the studio, famous people. You'd have the story. You'd have someone you met or some anecdotal presentation. Out of that came, you got to write these down. This is interesting stuff. So I said, okay, so I'll try it. So I decided to make the stories in San Francisco, mainly because I'm comfortable there. I know the city. I was born and raised there. And I think that it's an interesting place, not only because if you're from the Bay Area or know the Bay Area, you'll recognize landmarks, you'll recognize streets. But even if you're from out of the Bay Area and you never have been to San Francisco, you've seen it on television and movies. Of course. So, for instance, in the second book, a significant portion takes place in North Beach, and St. Peter and Paul's Church is a landmark. And people see that, and they see it in the book, and they immediately go, oh, that's the church in Dirty Harry. I remember exactly where that was. So the book can resonate not just in the Bay Area, but beyond that. And that's kind of what you need as an author. You can't be so centric that you only have a limited audience. And then my heroes, my protagonists in the story are San Francisco police homicide inspectors. And I base these characters on composites of people that I've worked with over the years. No one character is a single individual. There really are composites. And I base that, and I have a fairly good grasp of SF homicide, because when I was a young homicide investigator in Berkeley, I had the same mentor who had helped me, allowed me to come over to the city on my days off, literally, and work with them, be a fly on the wall. So I got a chance to be in the room with some of the legendary San Francisco homicide people back in the 70s. Okay.
All right. So you said in the previous books you based it off of places that were in movies, like you said, like in Dirty Harry. I'm actually curious if one of your next stories might come from the house from Full House.
Well, it's kind of the stories are based on real criminal incidents.
Okay.
It's not true crime, and there's a big difference between crime fiction and true crime. True crime tends to focus on a single case, and it goes into great depth about that particular case. And the investigators, while they're critical to the case, you don't normally dig into the investigators and make them more colorful, because they're not the story. It's the crime that's the story.
Right.
So in crime fiction, what I'm trying to do is not glorify or make the crime the central point. I want the investigation and the characters to be the central point. I want the reader to like the characters, to relate to them, and I want to try and make them interesting. I mean, you can't have a murder mystery without a murder. I mean, clearly you have to have a murder to start the story, but I don't want it to be the focal point, and I don't want it to be overly gory or it has to be there. You create it, and then you move forward and hopefully make the story interesting.
Okay. All right. So, you wrote these 3 books with the one currently out that's called Greed. Can you give a little more into this book, Greed?
Sure. Greed's a bit of a departure from the first 2 in that it starts in Europe. It starts in Paris, and it moves from Paris to Amsterdam to New York, and then back to San Francisco. And this one does explore the crime a little more in depth because it's different. The initial crime deals with art forgery and art theft, which is a little bit outside the purview of a homicide team. So it's interesting, and I think the readers will enjoy it. But at the same time, as the writer, you've got to pull it back to the city. So in the story, the bad guys are very successful in what they're doing, but because of the title greed, they will go beyond their reach exceeds their grasp, shall we say, and they get into an area that is really foreign to them, and it ends up in a homicide in San Francisco. Then my characters come back into the story and the city and the tie back to the first two books.
Okay. All right. So what's next for Brian?
I'm just finished a fourth book, and it's going to be a total departure from the two. This one is actually going to feature a new team of protagonists who are detectives in Wyoming, and the story will be focused on a militia group in Montana and their attempt to take over some property up in Montana. This is a little bit different. It's a lot different, actually. It's out of the Bay Area. It's outside my comfort zone, shall we say. Yeah. But I have a good friend who lives in Montana, and I was able to go up and spend time with him and meet people from the various law enforcement agencies up in that area. So I was able to get information. And then from that point, my wife and I took a road trip. We drove from San Francisco up to Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, Colorado, all through the area, because I wanted to be accurate. I pride myself on being accurate. If I tell you that there's going to be an incident that occurred off of the I-25 freeway, I want to be sure I drove that piece of freeway and I know that there is a shoulder on that road where the incident could take place. I don't want to put it in the story and have somebody who lives in Casper, Wyoming, read the book and go, well, that's BS. There's no such place. That freeway doesn't have an off-ramp there. Right. So we drove it. So when I put it in the book, I actually drove that piece of freeway and I drove to that bus station and I looked at it. And when I say that the person came in the entry at this point, that's where the entry is. And I want that to be right. I don't want to have books where you have north-south streets intersecting. I want them to be accurate.
Okay. All right. So how can people reach out to you, Brian, in reference to this?
There's a website called goldengatetales.com, and the books are on that. The books are available through Amazon and Barnes & Noble and local bookstores, independent bookstores. I've done some book signings at some local independent stores, which have been a lot of fun, as with Barnes & Noble and some other big stores. But the book signings are great to meet people and have an opportunity to talk one-on-one with folks and answer questions. Frequently, people come up and they have all kinds of questions about how you got to where you are, how did the story develop, and inevitably you'll have somebody will come up and they'll have a book and they want to know how do you get your book published. And and I'm happy to talk to folks. I'll give them the benefit of what I found out. Book publishing is an interesting world. It's way out of my comfort zone, to tell the truth. And I've had some painful lessons dealing with publishers that are less than reputable. And there are people out there, you read them on the internet, give us $2,500 and we'll turn you into a New York Times bestseller in 30 days. Well, that's not going to happen. I guarantee you, your $2,500 will disappear, but you're not going to be on the Times bestseller list.
Right. All right. Well, Brian, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. I'm sorry I don't have any more questions to come up with. But you are welcome to come back when the new books are out. At any time, we'll be happy to promote them. Okay. And thank you so much, everyone, for watching the Life with Joey Calvo podcast. God bless you all.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.